Hello and welcome to the Weaver Virtual Studio, where we're going to be using all sorts of technological wizardry to break down the grand finals of the ESL One Germany 2020 tournament. And joining me here in the studio is, of course, Gareth. He's going to be over on the Holostrata, using all of this tactical knowledge to break down this game in game number 1. There is only one MVP in my books, and that is this man, Boxy, on his Slardar, playing with Tiger on the eye. I mean, this combo is straight up broken, and they have used every aspect of this combination to put on a tremendous amount of pressure. Multiple things such as the Guardian Sprint along with the IO and the overcharge of the Bash just made them put so much pressure on this map. And as you can see here with the Weaver win probability, that pressure translated to an enormous win percentage in the early game of 64%, which was really hard for NAVI to oversurmount. They had to use their cooldown.
Yeah, they had a number of them. Phoenix with a Supernova and 2 on the Dragon Knight in both Elder Dragon form and his BKB, really looking to focus on those mid-game team fights to try and match up against Liquid as they picked the Dragon Knight into Viper, which is usually quite an unusual situation, but they did so even against Nether Toxin, which conventionally beats the Dragon Knight's Dragon Blood, but the early BKB of Dragon Knight, which he picked up at around 15 minutes, being in the top 1% of historical purchases, meant that he was actually able to battle into Team Liquid, or he at very least tried to.
Yeah, well, we're going to have a look at some of his BKB usages here. So here's the first one, and as you can see, Liquid just run away from it. But no worries, he's got another one available, so here's a second purchase of it. And they jump on top of him, they chase him, but, I mean, he pops a BKB to absolutely no avail. But don't worry, clip number 3, this is going to be the big one. Here they go, jumping on the DK, he's got the Elder Dragon form, he's got the BKB, looks for the turnaround, and they just run away from him again, Gareth. And then, of course, we have this final clip here, where they jump him in the jungle, and this time, he doesn't even get away. He pops the 4th BKB charge to absolutely no avail, again and again, just finding himself completely impotent in this game.
Yeah, but don't get us wrong, this wasn't really Iceberg playing poorly. He made a correct decision buying the BKB. The Dragon Knight looked like a decent pick matching up into the mid game. It was down to Team Liquid and the way that they started team fights. And we take a look here, a team fight brewing in the river as NAVI moved down into the southeast corner, attacking Liquid, and then retreated very nicely back up onto the high ground near their own tier 1 to try and set up a team fight there for them. But here we can see what Liquid do exactly to force these ultimates and get a team fight on their own terms. NAVI, they initiate, it looks pretty decent. Yes, they lose the clockwork, but the fallback, the retreat, the Liquid chase, and this is where we really do notice with Phoenix having Supernova, Dragon Knight having BKB, they're used reasonably early, and Liquid, they retreat, they fall back, they wait for the cooldowns to be reset, and then they immediately jump back in, looking to close out the team fight.
Yeah, and with both the BKB and the Supernova on cooldown for the first time, they're looking towards taking the tier 1 tower in the middle lane. They are going to get it, and with this tower being down, they can put on so much pressure, continue poking and prodding and constantly non-stop finding these kills, finding these cooldowns, finding these items, and this can be visualized by our cooldown chart. Now, on here, you can really see exactly what has happened throughout this 2 minutes of the game. Up the top, we have all the different items and hero deaths and spells which have been put on cooldown, and underneath them is the cooldowns, and as you can see, it's all about the overlapping. So as one is still on cooldown, they find another play, put something else on cooldown, then find another play, and this constant overlapping domino effect is what really puts NAVI behind and unable to bring 100% of their damage to these fights.
Yeah, and it was a real common thread throughout this game, where here again we see the Dragon Knight using Dragon Form and BKB, expecting Liquid to force that team fight into the triangle, and this is when Liquid realize that they can reset. They fall back to between their tier 1 and tier 2, knowing that the Dragon Form and BKB are down, knowing that they've got 2 BKBs on their Viper and their Slardar, and they actually smoke across into that Radiant Triangle, looking for targets such as Spectre, and here we do see them get across with that smoke gank.
Yeah, I mean, this poor old Clockwork, he's just having a great time with his triangles, and he gets jumped upon by this huge combination of Boxy and IO, and now they find another kill with the Bat Rider. He's even going to pop Lasso to try and keep himself alive, but to no avail.
And then we come to the Dragon Knight yet again being found as that map is spread wide open by Team Liquid, and he's forced to yet again use that BKB, gets picked off and killed off this time, and we can see what happens further on in the game.
Yep, so moving over to the right side, we are going to be able to see this chart of kills now, and it's important to keep an eye on all of these skull and crossbones here. You see in the early game for Team NAVI, they're quite split up. This is because Liquid are finding the ganks, they're finding the kills, they're finding the rotations, and forcing these cooldowns, as mentioned before. But then we get later on into the game, and they're all clumped together, and this is the point in the game when Liquid realize they're strong enough to take big team fights. They don't care about the cooldowns anymore. They're happy just to run headlong into NAVI. They know they've amassed too much of an advantage for NAVI to actually fight back, even with their spells, and they can take the game out from there.
Absolutely, and we can see towards the end of the game, Liquid, like you're saying, really didn't care about these cooldowns anymore. After baiting teamfight ultis, after baiting BKBs, it was down to NAVI to really start teamfights themselves. A good little pick off on a support there, and a nice play by the DK to hold that Dragon Tail for the IO, who was kind of baiting around the void with their Chrono. But in the end, Supernova, BKBs don't matter as Liquid hold their line, retreat a little bit, but only to use BKBs themselves to turn the tides of the team fight, take out NAVI, and really give them no options but to fall away, crumble apart, and retreat as the end of the game was nearing.
Yeah, and that's how they did it. From this point on, there was no team fight for NAVI to take. Their cooldowns were just not enough to win them the game anymore, and that's how they took game number 1. Now, if you guys want to hear some more information about everything we've shown off in the studio as well as the Weaver app, then follow @Weaver TV on Twitter. But from us here in the virtual studio, it's going to be a goodbye, and thanks for watching.